Good day, everyone. I am Regine Moredes, and today we will talk about threshing. So, first, we have our learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to define what is threshing, identify the methods of threshing, distinguish the difference between the two major types of thresher, and evaluate the importance of proper threshing. So now, what do you think is threshing? What could it be? So threshing is a process of separating the grain from the straw. Okay, so iba ng mga crops like cassava, kamote, coconut, kadalida ang pagkuha sang ila bunga. But sa mga grain crops like rice, it would be impossible to separate their grain since gagmay kaayo ang dendamo pa jud. So dili madali-dali pagkuha using only by hands. That's why grain crops have different process of separating their grains, and that what is called threshing. So it can be done manually using animal power or using mechanical threshers. So it is normally done after the grain moisture content is reduced to 15 to 17%. So it is important nga laya na gayud ang grain crops bago nimo siya i-thresh. Why is it? It is because if laya na or dry, mature na siya, meaning pwede na siya ma-harvest. And amo pa pwede ma-thresh, and also dali lang siya ma-separate if dry na siya. That's why kinahanglan gayud siya i-reduce ang iya moisture content o sa pa ma-thresh. So threshing can be achieved by three methods. We have rubbing, impact, and stripping. So before going further, let's discuss first the parts of the grain crops for you to better understand the terms that will be used in this discussion. So this is the chaff, ang panit sang grain, and this is the grain. Now we have the head. This is what you call head. And this is the stalk or the stem. Okay. So we have methods of threshing. The common methods of threshing are by manual labor, by animals, and by machine. So by manual labor, threshing by manual labor is a slow and labor consuming. So the process of beating the harvest on a floor or beating by stick is the method followed for small quantity of harvest. So this is a manual labor, meaning kinahanglan nimo kinahanglan sa physical strength na mismo ang tao mismo ang mag-separate. So since gimano-mano raman, so hinay gayud siya ang iya process. It is advisable lang sa mga small farm, and kung sa mga large farms magkinahanglan na gayud siya sa machine since tamo naman ang crops. But for those farms that have small quantity of harvest, you can use manual labor. So this is a traditional method. Ni siya mga method sa pag-separate sang grains sa aton mga kanunuan. So the process is either by beating the harvest or ang grain ibunay natin sa any hard surface or thing, and also by beating it by stick. Ang grain mismo ang bunayan sang stick. So that is called hand beating. Hand beating method are normally used for threshing rice that easily shatters or have a lower moisture content. So amo ni siya ang ila pag thresh for those who have a small quantity of harvest. Ilabunayan by using stick to separate the grain. Next, this is are the different things na gigamit to separate aside from stick or kuha nila ang crops, ibunay nila sa hard things or surface as the wood, like a metal drum, and then wood nga uh, basta wood. Next, we have trampling. This involves the use of bare feet or to thresh the crop. The crop is spread over a mat or canvas and workers trample with their own feet. So as you can see in the picture, ang tao gitamakan nila ang grain crops to separate the grains. So this method is uh, time and labor consuming, and this is advisable for those who have a small quantity of harvest. Next, we have threshing by animals. Threshing by animals is a very common method used in villages. The harvest is spread on a clean threshing space. The animals are tied in line one after the other with the help of a strong pole fixed in the center of the threshing space. Animals move round and round on the harvest and trample them continuously till the grains are completely separated from straw. So this is also one of the traditional methods of threshing. So parehali ni siya sa trampling, but animals ang ilagius. Animals ang motamak, like sa kabayo or akaw ba. So, patuyok-tuyok nila ang baka, for example, until ma-separate ang grains. So, this method is damo ang ma-damage nga crops or grains. Kay tamak-tamakan man, and also you can't control the movement of the animals kung hain sila matamak. So, kung matamakan nila ang grains, so, namugad ang ma-damage. So, overall, threshing by manual labor and by using animals is really hard. Lain na gayud sang sara na damo na kayo sang gamit. Dali na ang pag-obra. Now we'll move on to the next method. We have threshing by a machine. Threshing by a machine is a faster method of grain detachment. The grain used for the purpose of grain detachment and separation is what you called a thresher. So, ang machine nga used for threshing or mag-separate sang grains kay amo na siya ang thresher. So, fast ini siya nga method kaysa sa manual labor and by using animals. So, this is now what farmers use, especially kung dako ila farm and then they have a large quantity of harvest. Now we have the major types of thresher. We have hold-on thresher and then feed-in or throw-in thresher. First, the hold-on thresher. The plant stalks are held in bundles against the rotating cylinder and the grains are stripped off and collected. Only the panicle is fed into the machine. So this type of thresher is kinahanglan nimo kapta ng crops while nag-rotate ang cylinder. Example is the pedal-operated paddy thresher. Now, pedal-operated paddy thresher, it consists of mainly a well-balanced cylinder with a series of wire loops fixed on wooden slates and a foot pedal. So it has a foot pedal. Ang function niya kay amo ni siya ang magpa-rotate sang cylinder. Para mo rotate, kinahanglan nimo siya tamak-tamakan. So here's the example. Okay. Next, we have the feed in or throw in thresher. Plant stalks are fed into the machine continuously, which produces grain and throw in the respective outlets. So from the name itself, feed in, mura siya di mo siyang ipakaon sa machine. Dili na nimo kinanglan pa kaptan ang stalks. Unlike sa hold and thresher nga kinanglan pa to nimo siya kaptan. So in here, dili na nimo kinahanglan kaptan ng crops and also ma-separate ang limpyo nga grains kag ang mga unnecessary, which is ang mga leaves, ang stem. Malain siya and then ma-separate sa grains. So it is easy na lang pag separate. Di na kinahanglan pa i-separate ang mga higko. Unlike sa pedal operated kay magsagol kay dito ang mga stems sang grains and then ikaw man kinanglan pa to nila ilain. But in feed in or throw and thresher, malain na siya diretso. So ang makuha na nila ang finished product, limpyo gad ang grain. So example is power thresher. Power thresher is a machine operated by a prime mover such as electric motor, engine, and tractor or power tiller used for threshing. So a power thresher kay of course dili na nimo kinahanglan sang pedal nga tamak-tamakan pa nimo para mo andar mo operate. In power thresher ara na siya electric motor and engine. So paandaron lang nimo ang engine and then go na. Ma-thresh na siya ang mga grains. Ang crops rather. So here's the function of several functions of power thresher. First, to feed the harvest to the threshing cylinder. Dili na di mo kinahanglan kaptan. Next, to thresh the grain out of the head. So, nakadamdam ka mo sa tong heads ang parts ng crops. So, ma-separate na ang grain sa to nga part. And then, to separate the grain from the straw or the stem. And to clean the grain. So, mas malain naman ang straw. Malain na siya sa lain nga higko or ang mga leaves. So, limpyo gad ang grain igawas ang machine. And also to put the grain in a bag and to make busa or chaff suitable for animal feeding. So ang busa amon to siya ang nagpanit sa grain. Since ma-separate naman to siya, amo na siya muna siyang magaling and then pwede na to siya for animal feeding like pareha sa taho. So here's the example of power thresher. Okay, that's it. Now we have the threshing elements. So there are many different styles of thresher. Nagkalain-lain lang ang ilang mga threshing elements. Ang iban dagko, may ara iban harvester siya na tractor, and then ig-harvest diretso lang tayo siya ma-thresh. Like, it's like a dual purpose kind of machine. So here's the different threshing elements. We have the pig type, the loop type, angle bar type, hammer mill type, rust bar type, and spike tooth cylinder. So, amo na siya ang mga threshing elements. Ang kalain-lain lang. So, this is what I told you, a harvester and also a threshing. Okay, so inang white nga bag, ara na dira ma-shoot ang finished product, ang na-thresh nga grain. Okay. So there are also type of threshers according to the crops. We have wheat thresher, maize, paddy, millet, groundnut, soybean, and multi-crop thresher. So ang multi-crop thresher is like a multi-purpose thresher. It can thresh multiple kinds of grains or crops. That's why it is called multi-crops. Ang iban ilisan lang sa mga threshing elements. So this is the wheat thresher, the maize thresher, ang pag-thresh sang mais. And then the paddy thresher, meaning rice ina siya ang paddy. Kitawag lang siya nga paddy, it's because kay harap ang iyang mga chaff or ang iyang mga panit sang grain. So di pa siya completely nga rice. That's why it's called paddy thresher. You have the millet thresher. This is what it looks like ang millet. And then amo ni sa ila pag-thresh. Tuyok-tuyokon lang. Next, we have the groundnut thresher or ang peanut. Actually, this matawag yun siya nga peanut, but ang groundnut nut is like ang family sang peanut. So it under niya ay ang peanut. Next, the soybean thresher. Now we have guidelines on proper threshing. Okay, this is for manual threshing. For hand threshed crops, partial drying in the field for a couple of days may be necessary to lower the moisture content and make threshing easier. So kinahanglan jud nga dry ang mga crops para dali ma-thresh. Dali lang siya ma-separate from its stem or stalk. And because kung dry na, mature na siya. Next, care must be taken not to over-dry the crop if it is to be transported any distance before threshing, as excessive shattering will occur. So over-drying the crops is not advisable if i-transport pa siya sa laing lugar for threshing. Like dili nimo siya dira i-thresh sa ina nga field, kinahanglan pa nimo siya mo biyahe ka pa para dito ma-thresh. For example, kung wa kay threshing machine, so to kay lungsod and then dito ka magpa-thresh. So kung amo na yung buhaton, over drying the crops is not you shouldn't do it. For example, mo biyahe ka pa sa lungsod para dito ipa-thresh na i-should mi na sa sako and crops. Nya kung over dry adto, so gamay lang nga lihok or alsa ba mo break dayon ang crops because kay over dry man siya, laya kaayo or dry kaayo. And then madamage siya, labi na kung ang agianan kay dili hapsay, so dako kayo ang damage sa crops. So it's really not advisable to over dry the crops. Okay lang na siya if dira mismo sa field ka, dira ka nag-harvest and then dira ka sa field lot mag-threshing or gamay lang nga distance ang imo kanon for threshing. So while the crop may be dried before threshing, dried crop should not be subjected to reweighting. Reweighting causes grain fissures, which lead to high broken grain when milled. Okay. So, syempre, uga naman siya. So, dili gid advisable nga basun palat nimo siya balik or inang gipa laya gani ipalaya nimo siya and then mauwanan, so kinahanglan kuhaan gid nimo nimo pasagdan kay because madamage ang crops ano ang iban sina mang magka-sprout na so dili na nimo siya ma-trash. Okay, so next we have for machine threshing. Harvest the grain of optimal maturity to maximize yield and minimize losses. Eggshell flow threshers are particularly designed for rice. It can handle very wet crops. So, i-harvest gid nimo ang crops kung mature na gid siya. So, there are also threshers na makahandle sang wet crops and that is eggshell flow threshers. Since sa rice crops kay dili man jud na laya or dry gid i-harvest. So, you can use eggshell flow because it can handle a very wet crops. Okay. So, timing of threshing. Ideally, machine threshing should begin immediately after cutting and often these crops can be threshed in the field. So, usually ang crops iguman harvest, idiretso din na siya for threshing. That's why aray mga machine pareha sa video kalina na i-harvest ang machine diretso lang dayon for threshing. Why is it? Okay, you'll know it in the next slide. Okay, immediate threshing reduces the exposure of crop to insects, birds, and rodents, disease, and molds. Crop that is piled over a period of time generates heat that will serve as an ideal medium for growth of molds, disease, and pests. Piling for several days will lead to grain discoloration, germinated grains, and spoilage. Okay, so kung i-store pa nimo siya, it would be exposed to insects nga kauna nimo crops and also animals like birds and chickens. And also kung i-store pa nimo siya sang dugay, there is a high chance nga madunot siya. Labi na kung ang imo storage kay mauwanan nga mabasa ang imo crops and then magkamold ang imo iban nga crops and then ang iban mag-germinate or may mga sprout na. Ay, or may nagtubo na mga sprouts. So, dili na nimo siya magamit for threshing kay may mga sprouts naman siya. So, it is advisable to higuman harvest thresh dayon. Okay, next, machine adjustments. Always make sure the threshing drum speed and the cleaner settings are done properly according to the crop conditions. Wrongly adjusted threshers create higher threshing loss and grain damage. Okay, so maintenance of the machine should be keep or maintain, especially its adjustments. Labi na ito may mga threshing elements. Okay, for example, may guba yung machine and then you use it without checking. So there is a possibility na lain ang resulta. Imbis na ma-separate ang crops, madugmo kinuon or na-damage ba, which results in threshing loss and grain damage. Okay, that's all. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.